抜き取ったとして72歳の容疑者が逮捕されました。都内では今年スリの被害が大幅に増えていて、警視庁は年末年始に向けて警戒を強化するとともに注意を呼びかけています。逮捕されたのは東京足立区の佐々木妙子容疑者72歳です。警視庁によりますと、昨日池袋の東武百貨店で開かれていた衣料品の特売会場で、客のカバンから現金およそ5万円の入った財布を抜き取ったとして窃盗の疑いが持たれています。客に近づいた容疑者が手元を衣類で隠して財布を盗むところをスリの警戒に当たっていた捜査員が確認し、その場で逮捕したもので、調べに対しお金がなくて盗んでしまったと供述しているということです。都内でのスリの被害は今年先月末までに450件に上っていて、去年の同じ時期に比べ大幅に増えています。警視庁は買い物客で混雑する年末年始に向けて警戒を強化するとともに、人混みではリュックサックや手提げカバンは体の前で持つこと、財布などの貴重品は周りから見えないところに入れるなど対策を徹底するよう呼びかけています。新しい暗号資産を発行するという事業への出資を持ちかけて1億5000万円を騙し取ったとして詐欺の疑いで逮捕された男性3人について、東京地方検察庁は不起訴としました。60歳と57歳、それに51歳の男性3人は、東京中央区の美術品販売会社に新しい暗号資産を発行するという事業への出資を持ちかけて、現金1億5000万円を騙し取ったとして、長野県の大北地域、新潟県に、風雪や着雪、雪崩の注意報が新潟県に、乾燥注意報が関東地方の広い範囲に出ています。各地の明日の予報です。関東地方南部晴れでしょう。関東地方北部晴れで山沿いでは雪でしょう。
こちらは NHK ワールドラジオ日本 NHK の国際放送です。次の短波での日本語放送は日本時間の午前0時からです。午前0時からの日本語放送は東南アジア向けの 11.815MHz です。繰り返します。午前0時からの日本語放送は東南アジア向けの 11.815MHz です。こちらは NHK ワールドラジオ日本 NHK の国際放送です。 AI のアナウンスでお伝えしました。
Thanks for tuning in to NHK Newsline. I'm Yoshio Gasawara. We start with the conflict between Israel and Hamas. A deal to pause the fighting appears to be still out of reach, and the Israel Defense Forces says it'll focus on its operations in the Gaza Strip south now that its search of underground facilities in the north is over. The IDF said on Wednesday its forces had found a network of infrastructure used by Hamas leaders, and the operation uncovered weapons and intelligence material.
This concludes our exposure of Hamas's underground terrorist city in the northern Gaza Strip. We will neutralize it and destroy all its infrastructures at their strategic locations. We will also continue this operation in the southern strip.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is adamant he'll pursue his goal to eliminate Hamas by any means necessary.
All Hamas terrorists have only two options: surrender or die.
Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports Hamas rejected an Israeli offer of a one-week pause in the fighting in exchange for dozens of hostages. U.S. President Joe Biden says that negotiations are still ongoing.
Are we expecting a hostage deal anytime soon?
Well,
pushing it. There's no expectation at this point, but we are pushing it.
Al Jazeera quotes Palestinian officials as saying more than 20,000 people have been killed since the Israeli military operation started in October. The Malaysian government has banned Israeli-flagged ships from docking at its ports in response to the country's ongoing offensive in the Gaza Strip. It accused Israel of violating international law for what it calls a massacre against Palestinians. The Muslim-majority country announced the sanctions in a statement on Wednesday and singled out one of Israel's biggest shipping companies, Sim. It has also banned any ship en route to Israel from loading cargo at Malaysian ports. A number of pro-Palestinian rallies have taken place across the country. In October, thousands of people gathered at a rally in which Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim called on Israel to immediately stop the attacks. In Malaysia, Muslims are said to account for more than 60% of its population. The government has long kept a position of supporting the Palestinians, and it does not have diplomatic ties with Israel. We turn now to the war in Ukraine. Officials in Kyiv say they plan to boost production next year of drones that give a live view of the battlefield.
Our guys in the brigades will receive Ukrainian-made drones. Regarding production, we will produce 1 million drones next year. We will make 1 million. We will do everything to make it so. I know that's how it will be.
The drones in question give what's known as a first-person view. Operators can see what's happening as though they're pilots in the air. FPV drones are being used extensively by Ukraine and Russia. The Ukrainian Minister of Strategic Industries also spoke of plans to make attack drones. He outlined plans next year to build 10,000 with a range of several hundred kilometers and at least 1,000 with a range of more than 1,000 kilometers. Taiwan's cabinet is slamming China's decision to suspend preferential tariff treatment for some chemical imports starting next month. The decision comes just weeks before Taiwan's presidential election. The Chinese government announced on Thursday that the suspension will apply to 12 chemicals produced in Taiwan, including propylene and xylene. The rates are stipulated under an economic cooperation framework agreement that was signed in 2010 as a step to liberalize trade. But China's Commerce Ministry said last week that its probe found Taiwan's restrictions on imports of farm and other products from China constitute trade barriers. The ministry criticized Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, saying it is unilaterally restricting Chinese imports. China now says Taiwan should remove the trade restrictions. Taiwan's cabinet accuses China of economic coercion.
The probe by China lacks transparency. It distorts the facts to conclude Taiwan violated the framework agreement's provisions.
The spokesperson says the probe had more to do with politics than economics. China's foreign minister has warned his Philippine counterpart that bilateral relations are facing serious difficulties due to their country's territorial dispute in the South China Sea. He called for dialogue to resolve the issue. Wang Yi and Enrique Malolos spoke by phone on Wednesday. Wang claimed the Philippines' actions led to the deepening confrontation, saying it had changed its stance and policies. Tensions have been rising between the countries since August over a series of incidents in the South China Sea. Ships have clashed, and China Coast Guard vessels have turned their water cannons on Philippine military resupply boats. Wang told Manalo their countries are neighbors separated only by narrow waters, and they should resolve disputes through dialogue. His remarks come as Manila has recently been seeking closer cooperation with the U.S. and Japan. Officials in Beijing say the two top diplomats agreed to hold talks at an early date. In other news, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says Pyongyang will not hesitate to launch a nuclear strike if provoked. The country's ruling Workers' Party newspaper, Rodong Shinmun, said on Thursday, Kim made the remarks after he praised his troops for its latest missile launch. Pyongyang carried out a test for a suspected intercontinental ballistic missile, the Hwasong-18, on Monday. The Hwasong-18 is North Korea's first solid-fuel ICBM-class missile. Kim said the launch demonstrates the evolution of his country's nuclear strategy. Last year, the North made the use of preemptive nuclear strikes to protect itself a law. The UN Security Council held an emergency session in response on Tuesday. The U.S., Japan, and other nations criticized the launch as a violation of Security Council resolutions. NHK has learned that Tokyo prosecutors have called in the office of Japan's former chief cabinet secretary for voluntary questioning. They're investigating a fundraising scandal involving factions of the main ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Matsuno Hirokazu had previously held a senior role in the Abe faction, the party's largest